The vast emptiness of space stretched before the human exploration vessel horizon. Captain Ji-woo Park stood on the bridge, his dark eyes scanning the holographic displays that flickered with incoming data. The ship moved silently, its quantum drive humming with a soft, almost imperceptible vibration. Sensors detected an alien vessel approaching from the starboard side. It was sleek, unlike anything humans had encountered before. All smooth curves and metallic surfaces that seemed to absorb and reflect light in impossible ways. Ji-woo watched carefully, his hand resting lightly on the communication console. "Incoming transmission," announced Hye-jin Kim, the ship's communication specialist. Her fingers moved quickly, preparing defensive communication protocols that had been developed after years of careful interstellar encounters. The alien voice crackled through the speakers. Deep, mechanical, completely devoid of emotion. "Unidentified human vessel. You have entered restricted space of the Galactic Confederation. Prepare for immediate inspection and potential detention." Ji-woo didn't move. His training had prepared him for moments exactly like this. The alien vessel was positioning itself, not as a welcoming party but as a potential threat. Its weapon systems were powered, though not yet actively targeting the horizon. "Standard approach vectors," he muttered to his crew. "Maintain passive scanning. No aggressive responses." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Each member of the human team understood the delicate dance of first contact. One wrong move could escalate a potential diplomatic encounter into a full-scale conflict. The alien vessel moved closer. Its size dwarfed the horizon, a clear display of technological superiority and intimidation. But Ji-woo had seen such displays before. Size meant nothing when adaptability was the true measure of survival. Hye-jin's console began blinking. "Captain, they're attempting to establish a deep scan communication link. It's unusual. Not like previous Confederation protocols." Ji-woo nodded. "Restrict access. Run standard encryption barriers." What the aliens didn't know was that human communication systems had been redesigned multiple times. Each iteration became more complex, more unpredictable. Where alien technologies followed rigid mathematical patterns, human systems introduced controlled chaos. The alien vessel suddenly shifted. Its movements were precise, calculated, but something felt off. Ji-woo could sense it. His crew could sense it. There was an underlying tension that suggested this was more than a routine inspection. "Defensive posture," he commanded softly. But no active weapons, just preparedness. Hye-jin and the tactical team understood immediately. Defensive didn't mean passive, it meant being ready for anything. The alien communication channel opened again. This time, the voice carried a hint of something else. Was it frustration? Confusion? It was hard to tell with mechanical translations. "Human vessel. You will comply with Confederation protocols. Prepare for boarding procedures." Ji-woo's lips curved slightly. Boarding procedures, as if humans would simply allow an unknown entity to enter their ship without comprehensive security measures. "Respectfully declining," he responded. His voice was calm, professional. "We are on a peaceful exploration mission. Request clear communication of specific Confederation requirements." The silence that followed was telling. The alien vessel seemed to pause, its massive form hanging in space like a predatory beast momentarily confused by unexpected resistance. Underneath the calm exterior, Ji-woo's mind was racing. This encounter was about more than just a routine space inspection. Something fundamental was happening. A first true test of human adaptability against an established galactic civilization. The bridge crew waited. Sensors hummed. The quantum drive continued its soft vibration. In this moment, humanity's reputation was being defined, not through aggressive action, but through calculated, intelligent response. They were writing the first chapter of a story that would echo through galactic history. And Captain Ji-woo Park was ready to write that chapter, one careful decision at a time. The alien vessel's scanning beam cut through the horizon's outer hull, probing for weaknesses. Most crews would have panicked. Hee-Jin Kim simply smiled. Her fingers moved across the quantum encryption panel with practiced precision. To an outside observer, it might have looked like random tapping. But each touch was a calculated response, a complex dance of digital defense. The Confederation ship believed it was conducting a standard inspection. They didn't realize they were walking into a carefully prepared trap. Hee-Jin's primary skill wasn't just technical expertise. It was understanding systems, how they connected, how they could be manipulated. Alien technology was advanced, but it followed predictable patterns. Human technology, by contrast, was beautifully chaotic. Suddenly, the alien vessel's primary systems began to shift. Navigation controls flickered. Weapon targeting computers spun random coordinates. Communication channels erupted with conflicting signals. What seemed like a malfunction was actually a precise intervention. Hee-Jin wasn't destroying their systems. She was redirecting them, creating a complex puzzle that would consume their computational resources. The alien commander, Raken Vrel, watched in growing confusion. His sophisticated scanning equipment showed impossible data streams. Systems that should have been stable were now behaving like living organisms, changing and adapting faster than any predictive algorithm could track. "What is happening?" Vrel demanded of his technical team. No one could answer. The human ship, which should have been completely vulnerable, was now turning the technological encounter on its head. Hee-Jin understood something fundamental about technological warfare. It wasn't about raw power. It was about adaptability, about turning an opponent's strengths into weaknesses. The Confederation vessel's advanced sensors were now working against it. Each attempt to probe the human ship was being reflected back, creating increasingly complex interference patterns. It was like trying to map a living, breathing system that constantly changed its internal structure. Captain Jiwoo watched the encounter with calm professionalism. He trusted his team. More importantly, he trusted human ingenuity. "Maintain passive systems," he instructed. "Let them discover their own limitations." On the alien bridge, panic was slowly replacing confusion. Their most advanced scanning technologies were being turned into useless streams of random data. The human ship hadn't fired a single weapon. It had simply adapted. Raken Vrel realized something terrifying. This wasn't just technological resistance. This was a fundamental demonstration of a different approach to problem solving. Humans weren't just another species to be categorized and controlled. They were something else entirely. Hee-Jin's final intervention was subtle. She didn't crash the alien systems. Instead, she left a small, almost invisible digital signature, a calling card, a message that said, "We can do this, but we choose not." To the Confederation vessel's systems slowly returned to normal, but nothing would be the same again. When communication was reestablished, Captain Jiwoo's response was measured, professional, calm. "We hope this encounter demonstrates our commitment to peaceful exploration," he transmitted. "We look forward to future diplomatic discussions." The message was simple, but its underlying meaning was clear. Humans would not be intimidated. They would not be controlled. Raken Vrel understood then that the galaxy had just changed. A new player had emerged, unpredictable, intelligent, and absolutely dangerous. Not through violence, but through something far more powerful, the ability to turn any situation into an opportunity. As the Horizon continued its journey, Hee-Jin allowed herself a small smile. Another successful encounter. Another demonstration of human potential. The key galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson. Humans were not just another species, they were something entirely different. And this was just the beginning. The communication networks across multiple star systems began to buzz with an unusual frequency. Something was happening, something different. Seung-Ho Lee watched the data streams with calculated interest. He understood something most alien civilizations did not. Humans were masters of psychological manipulation. Galactic communication channels started spreading rumors, Not traditional military reports, but something more insidious. Stories of a human exploration vessel that had completely neutralized a Confederation scanning ship without firing a single weapon. The stories grew. Each transmission added layers of complexity. Some reports suggested technological superiority. Others hinted at something more profound, a fundamental difference in thinking. Alien command centers became increasingly anxious. Their standard intelligence protocols couldn't process the human approach. Where other species followed rigid strategic models, humans introduced controlled chaos. Seung-ho's strategy was simple, yet brilliant. He wasn't just sharing information. He was crafting a narrative that would reshape how alien civilizations perceived humanity. Small communication packets were strategically distributed. Each contained just enough information to trigger curiosity, fear, and confusion. The Confederation's communication networks became a playground of psychological manipulation. Military analysts across different alien worlds started questioning their established understanding of potential human threats. Was this a new form of warfare? A different approach to strategic engagement? The brilliance of Seung-ho's approach was its subtlety. He wasn't generating false information. He was simply allowing existing information to be interpreted in multiple ways. Reports began circulating about human adaptability. Stories of exploration teams solving complex problems through unconventional methods. Tales of diplomatic encounters where humans transformed potential conflicts into opportunities for mutual understanding. Alien command structures, built on millions of years of established communication protocols, found themselves completely unprepared. Their intelligence-gathering systems were designed to process predictable information streams. Humans introduced something entirely different: dynamic, evolving communication strategies that changed faster than any predictive model could track. Seung-ho understood that true psychological warfare wasn't about direct confrontation. It was about creating uncertainty, about making potential opponents question their fundamental assumptions. The Confederation's communication networks became a tangled web of speculation. Every new transmission added another layer of complexity. Rumors mixed with partial truths, creating an information landscape that was impossible to definitively navigate. Some alien analysts began to theorize that humans possessed some form of advanced neural networking. Others suggested they had developed quantum communication technologies far beyond current understanding. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Humans just thought differently. Where other species saw challenges as problems to be solved through established protocols, humans saw them as opportunities for creative intervention. Seung-ho's team continued their careful information distribution. Each communication packet was designed to trigger specific psychological responses: curiosity, uncertainty, a growing sense of potential threat. Alien military commanders found themselves in impossible strategic positions. How do you prepare defenses against an opponent who doesn't follow any known strategic model? The psychological warfare wasn't about generating fear. It was about generating respect. About demonstrating that humanity was not just another species to be categorized and controlled. Galactic communication networks continued to buzz. Rumors spread. Speculation grew. And at the center of it all, Seung-ho Lee watched and waited. Each transmission was another carefully placed piece in a complex psychological game. The Confederation was learning a fundamental lesson. Humans were not just another species. They were something entirely different, a species that could turn information itself into a strategic weapon. As star systems continued their endless dance, one thing became increasingly clear. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity would be the catalyst. Not through military might, not through technological superiority, but through something far more powerful: the ability to make others question everything they thought they knew. The Confederation fleet approached human-controlled space like a massive dark storm. Hundreds of ships stretched across the star system, their weapon systems charged and ready. They expected total surrender. They expected submission. They were about to learn a very different lesson. Jun-ho Park stood on the central command platform. his eyes scanning the holographic displays. Next to him, Yan-Su Choi analyzed incoming data with rapid precision. The human defensive systems looked almost passive, but nothing was further from the truth. The first wave of Confederation attack ships moved forward. Their commanders believed this would be a simple territorial conquest. Massive energy weapons powered up, targeting what seemed like vulnerable human colonies. What happened next would be remembered across galactic history. Holographic decoys suddenly appeared. Hundreds of them, each one perfectly mimicking a human settlement, each generating complex energy signatures that confused Confederation targeting systems. The alien ships fired, but their weapons passed through empty space. Yan-Su's fingers moved across quantum communication panels. Each decoy wasn't just a visual trick. They were complex computational systems designed to absorb and redirect energy signatures. Confederation commanders watched in growing confusion. Their most advanced scanning technologies showed multiple potential targets. But which were real? Which were illusions? Junho's strategy was brutally simple. Don't fight the enemy's strength. Confuse it completely. Quantum communication networks began broadcasting multiple simultaneous signals. Some carried military information. Some were pure mathematical nonsense. Some were complex cultural transmissions that would take years to decode. The Confederation fleet found itself drowning in information. Every attempt to locate a clear target resulted in more confusion. Yan-Su had developed something extraordinary, a defensive system that wasn't about blocking attacks. It was about making attacks impossible to execute. Alien weapon systems began to fail, not through direct intervention, but through calculated computational interference. Each targeting system found itself solving impossible mathematical problems, burning through computational resources faster than they could reboot. Junho watched the confrontation with calm professionalism. This wasn't about destroying the enemy. This was about demonstrating something fundamental about human capabilities: adaptability, creativity, the ability to turn potential weakness into unexpected strength. The Confederation fleet's commanders began to realize something terrifying. They weren't fighting a traditional military force. They were confronting a completely different approach to conflict. Holographic cities shifted and changed. Energy signatures danced across scanning systems. Mathematical algorithms created complex interference patterns that made traditional targeting impossible. Some Confederation ships began to retreat. Their commanders understood something was fundamentally wrong. This wasn't a battle. This was a demonstration of human potential. Yan-Su's final intervention was subtle. She didn't destroy Confederation systems. She simply made them question their own capabilities. Each communication channel was subtly modified to introduce slight computational challenges. The result was beautiful in its complexity. The Confederation fleet found itself slowly paralyzed, not through violence, but through pure computational creativity. Junho's final transmission was calm and professional. "We hope this encounter demonstrates our commitment to peaceful territorial defense," he said. "We look forward to future diplomatic discussions." The message was simple, but its underlying meaning was clear. Humans would protect their territories, but they would do so in ways no one could predict. As Confederation ships slowly retreated, something had changed forever. The galaxy now understood that humans were not just another species. They were something entirely different. A species that could turn potential conflict into an art form of strategic complexity. And this was just the beginning. The Galactic Conference Chamber fell silent when the human delegation entered. Director Min-Ki Kwan walked with calm confidence, Admiral Yoon-Ji Shin close behind. Representatives from hundreds of alien civilizations watched, a mixture of fear and curiosity filling the massive circular hall. This was more than a diplomatic meeting. This was a moment of profound recognition. Holographic displays showed the recent confrontations. The Confederation's massive fleet, completely neutralized without a single human weapon being fired. Complex computational strategies that had transformed traditional understanding of military engagement. Min-Ki understood the psychological moment perfectly. Humans weren't going to apologize, they weren't going to explain. They were simply going to demonstrate their perspective. "We are not a threat," Minky began, her voice clear and steady. "We are a collaborative species seeking mutual understanding." The words were simple, but their underlying message was complex. Humans were offering partnership, but they would do so on their own terms. Admiral Yunji activated a series of holographic presentations. Each one showed a different human intervention, not military conquests, but problem-solving scenarios from various planetary environments. Challenges solved through creative thinking that defied traditional computational models. Alien representatives leaned forward. These weren't just military demonstrations. These were glimpses into a fundamentally different approach to existence. The Confederation's lead representative, a massive crystalline being named Krelax, spoke carefully. "You have demonstrated capabilities beyond our current understanding." Minky's response was measured. "We view challenges as opportunities, not as obstacles." Something profound was happening in that moment. The galaxy was recognizing that humans were not just another species to be categorized. They were evolutionary apex predators of a completely different kind. Not predators of physical destruction, but predators of intellectual adaptation. The holographic displays continued. Scenarios of human teams solving complex ecological challenges. Diplomatic interventions that transformed potential conflicts into collaborative opportunities. Mathematical models that introduced entirely new problem-solving approaches. Krelax realized something terrifying and beautiful. Humans didn't want to conquer. They wanted to understand. And in that understanding, they would inevitably transform everything they touched. Admiral Yunji's presentation showed something extraordinary. Human technological development wasn't linear. It was dynamic, constantly changing, constantly adapting. Where other species developed specific technological pathways, humans created entire new pathways of thinking. The conference chamber became quiet, not from fear, but from a growing sense of recognition. Humans were offering the galaxy something profound, not domination, but a new way of understanding potential. Minky's final statement was simple yet powerful. "We are here to collaborate, to explore, to understand." But everyone in the chamber understood the underlying message. Humans would collaborate, but they would do so on their own unique terms. The crystalline representatives began communicating among themselves. Complex mathematical exchanges that would have previously excluded other species were now being translated through human-developed communication protocols. Krelax understood then that everything had changed. The galaxy would never be the same. Humans had arrived, not as conquerors, but as transformative partners. The conference continued, but something fundamental had shifted. The alien civilizations were no longer looking at humans as a potential threat. They were looking at them as the most fascinating species the galaxy had ever encountered, adaptable, creative, fundamentally unpredictable. The true apex predators were not those who destroyed, but those who could reimagine everything. And humanity had just demonstrated that capability to the entire galaxy. As the conference continued, one thing became absolutely clear. This was not an ending. This was a beginning.